All right, so I'm doing this interview today. I was particularly interested in this one because we're going to talk about cocaine addiction and a couple different things. The first question I want to ask you is, so how was your childhood?
Oh man, it was well now that I'm going on 40 and looking back on it, you know, kind of like kind of regular for the ones of us that grew up in the same area. Kind of grew up the same. It's just when I was younger, I thought I had it shittier than others. I grew up in Southwest Detroit um, up until I was 8, and my dad was really bad alcoholic back then. He used to come home and whoop on my mom like really bad, and my mom and her sisters, got tired of it. So one of them came over with a shotgun. The other one got a station wagon from I don't know who, filled it up. We had like $68, some extra clothes, and we hit the road, went to Florida for uh for some more years until we ended up coming back.
What age was this when you how old were you?
I was 7 when that took place.
Okay, and then once you guys went out, where'd you guys go in Florida?
At the time, my great grandmother and my grandfather, from my mom's side, they were living in St. Pete.
Oh, okay, I've been down there before.
Yeah, yeah, but
So that happens, and how long was it until you went back to Michigan?
well, it was some year. We came back to Michigan when I was 13.
Hmm.
Yeah, but like how a lot of those relationships goes. My dad ended up selling everything that he owned, even his motorcycle.
Hmm.
Found out where we were at, and drove down, and I heard some talking early in the morning, and it woke me up. And I went out to the front room, and it was my dad on his knees begging my mom to give him a second chance. He'll change. He'll do all that. All the stuff I end up saying and putting other people's ears years later. But for the second half from 7 years old to 13, um, like my parents were actually like on their game.
Yeah.
We had a nice house. Well, down there are condos down there, like a duplex, two houses
Hmm.
attached, and two car household. We had a boat. Used to do all kind of great things. My dad became a licensed phlebotomist. My mom was a nurse's assistant, and I mean, it
You
was
had a good life. Yeah, it was much better
yeah,
than before.
yeah, for a minute, and
Yeah.
things happened. My dad ended up having a patient that got rough with him, and he poked himself with the needle that he was drawing the patient's blood, and he contracted hepatitis. And if you have any
Gotcha.
kind of disease, you cannot work in the field.
What was his
So he
job
went
again? What
and
what what exactly did he do?
he was a phlebotomist. He was the,
It,
the person in medical facilities that draws blood, does the blood.
okay, gotcha. That's what that means. Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
So we ended up getting hepatitis, and then what exactly happened after that?
He stayed working. He ended up working at a youth home, a juvenile youth home. But then drinking started again, and the verbal and the mental abuse, and it wasn't long before it got physical. Then we went from living in a nice side of town, nice house, the two cars in the boat. Yeah, no more. The boat was gone. Had one beat up ass car, and we're living in like a little project. And
Yeah.
like I was young. I was still young, but now that I look back on it, the unsavory characters that my dad dealt with, I know that it was more than drinking. You
Mm.
know, uh, like the drinking we seen and stuff. But now that I'm older, looking back on it, I seen what was taking place. There was drug use going on and everything. And but at the time, my dad's younger brother ended up moving down there close to us. So I avoided my dad as much as possible and hung out with my uncle because my uncle knew what was going on, and my uncle was like, uh, more than an uncle. He was like a big brother. I
Yeah.
felt that he was, trying to shield me from that stuff.
Is your uncle still alive now?
Yeah, yes,
Oh, cool. Are
he
you
is.
still close with him?
No, not as much as we were at one point.
Yeah.
And that just, I'm sure we'll touch on this, but that it goes on to where when when uh when you have family members who are drug addicts and one does a drug that is very similar but justifies it because they can get it from a doctor, but yet they
Yeah.
fill their bottle up off the street multiple times. Yeah, out of that,
Yeah.
and he used me for a scapegoat. Pretty much set me up to take a felony charge so he can get a reduced sentence.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So after all that happened, when did you end up going back to Michigan?
Um, I can't remember like an exact time. I know I was 13. I wasn't quite 14 yet because when we got back to Michigan, I was starting the fifth grade. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And we'll 13 to, did you say shit really hit the fan when you were 16? Was that correct?
Yeah. Well, from yeah, 16 is when uh I felt like the that was when the bottom fell out of like my domesticated family growing up scene.
What exactly happened to for that to happen?
Again, my parents went from going out hanging out late on a Friday to Friday night into Saturday morning. Then it was the whole weekend. Then it was they would just get home to prepare themselves for work Monday morning. And when you're running like that, it don't last long.
Yeah.
My mom wasn't taking care of herself with her medicine and her diet, and she's diabetic, and she she started blacking out at her job, and she worked in a adult assisted living facility and in like a hospice facility, and they're not, that's a big liability, so they let her go, and my mom couldn't find work nowhere else, and so she started collecting disability, and my at at the time I was involved with the street car business, the obtaining and selling of stolen parts, body parts,
Yeah,
front.
let's talk about that for a moment. So how were you
Yeah.
introduced to that?
Um, a neighbor, some other guys my age, in the neighborhood, started hanging out, and I always seen they had cars and stuff, and were working on them and getting rid of them, and I thought it was just, like, buying, selling, trading, but come to find out, they were getting their parts and everything going out, you know, stealing, and
Yeah.
I seen it, after they would come back, they would have money, and they're going to the store having a nice, clean, fresh outfit and haircuts, and
Yeah, and
and
when you're
up
young,
until,
it's impressionable and it looks awesome,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, it's appealing, and like at that time I was right around 15, and I never had a real bald fade haircut, like a fade,
Hmm.
and so I started going out with them, and they showed me how to do the stuff, and so then I started reaping the benefits, the nice clean clothes and the
Hmm.
nice haircuts, and I wasn't hungry all the time, and and the more they showed me, the more I did, and eventually it wasn't long before I was able to run a crew of my own, and my dad caught wind of it, and he was a tow truck driver, so he always had access to cars that were never looked at or inspected, so they didn't know what they were, getting at the auction.
Yeah,
So he would ask me to ride with him, um, and check the cars out for anything that we could take off that would, we could sell for cash. And of course, I'm not going to say no. It's my dad. It was quality
of
time, and
course.
he coming to me because he needs some help. And how often does a full grown man come to his teenage son for help?
Oh yeah, no,
And
especially. Yeah.
yeah, and it didn't last long. We took some things off, and he went and sold them behind my back, and went and blew the money. And he knew I was upset with him. So, but he at the time I had a nice Bronco that I wanted to put some newer style rims and tires and the seats from a newer Ford truck. And just so happened, 2 days after I was talking about it, he came by and had a brand new Navigator on the truck. And we went over by our house where we usually do the stuff at, and no, it's not reported stolen or nothing, but the cops end up riding by, seeing it, and getting nosy, and uh, end up looking through my dad's paperwork and found his boss's number and the contact from the auction we used to drop him off at, and yeah, so got in deep shit. My dad lost his job, lost his tow truck license, all that shit.
And were you ever sent for anything, or were you ever associated with the legal problems with that?
Not from that incident, but yeah, like my first incident I got in trouble was the retail fraud, shoplifting, a better word for shoplifting, um stealing clothes from Hudson's in Fairlane Town Center.
Hmm.
Yeah, and the screwed up thing with that was I had the money for the stuff in my pocket, but it's already too late.
Yeah.
Yeah, end up um going to juvenile for that, and my girlfriend at the time, who still now is still with the same woman, you know, came and bonded me out. And
So, oh, you're still with her right now?
yes, to this
Oh
day.
wow, wow,
Yep.
that's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
When you were younger doing this car stuff, how much money were you bringing in at the time?
Well, when I started off as, like an apprentice, like the flunky, um,
What is a flunky?
like go do this, go do that, go watch this.
Gotcha.
Like you ever seen like or watched the documentary on how the biker clubs, I
Oh
use
yeah,
the
of
name
course.
club, how they got the probie.
Yeah, or
You
how
know,
they initiate people and stuff. Yeah,
yeah, pretty much like that. Um, and they would never let me hear the negotiations on prices. And I'm dead. I'm coming from being dead broke. You I take off some parts and watch their back, and I'm getting 100, $250.
yeah.
That was damn good. But once I learned the ropes and learned the things and made a couple of my own contacts, there was nights I'd go out and I'd make 500 to 2,500 bucks.
Wow. Did you ever, when you were doing this, did you say you started about what age did you start with the car stuff?
Right around like 15.
15? And
Yep,
did you
15
ever
years
did you
old.
ever end up getting any real jobs during that time, or was it just strictly this?
No, I ended I on the street I was living on that time. There was a Mexican guy, got real cool with, and he had his own construction company, and I've always been big, and strong for my age, and he told me, he's like, why don't you come work for me? I'll pay you $120 a day cash at the end of the day and buy you lunch. What?
Yeah,
He
that's
he
pretty
he,
damn
he
good.
didn't, yeah, he didn't know it at the time, but he could have said half that. But the key word of saying lunch, I was sold. So yeah, and when he didn't have work, or I was being extra greedy, I would still go and do things as they presented themselves. But for the
Yeah.
the most part, he kept us busy because the same guys I was doing the slimy stuff with, you would work with us too.
And during this time, you said you have siblings, right?
Yes, I have a younger sister.
Okay. How much younger was she, or is she than you?
She's 3 years younger than me.
Oh, okay. So when you were 16, she was 13. Did you
Yeah.
did you find yourself almost parenting her in a sense during those times?
Yes. There was times like especially when my parents first started disappearing, I would I would tell my friends that I couldn't hang out because I would stay at home to watch over my sister. And but of course, as time went on, the urgency of making sure she was okay um, wasn't as important. Like I would leave the house, come back and check on her, and eventually it got to where I would just, you know, I wouldn't, and but that didn't last long. My aunt ended up talking with my mom and talked my mom into let my little sister, move with my aunt and uncle.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and
And mhm. Oh, keep going. What
at,
were you saying?
at the time, I thought it was, you know, for the best because I learned how to maneuver through the streets and survive. And I seen what was happening to young girls that chose that route. And I don't think she would have made made it too long.
Yeah. And let's talk for a second about drugs. So when were you introduced into drugs or alcohol or
Um, all around that that time, the drugs came with the stolen car scene. A lot of guys that bought the parts, uh, they sold or dealt in some kind of drug, or in some form or the other, weed, cocaine, even firearms. So it was normal to take partial trade. Some people don't want to come off their liquid cash, so they would give you more product. Say if the difference was $300, they'd rather give you a quarter ounce of cocaine or a half pound of weed to not give you the cash. So
yeah.
yeah, so it was normal in that scene to accept that trade and sell off. And when you're in a
And
shop,
so let's talk about drug use. When did you start using drugs, or what was the first thing you've
well,
ever done?
when
You think?
when I was when around 15, that's I started dabbling when we would do the trades on the parcel for like weed. I was never big on weed. Like I would smoke it, but it wasn't too good to like.
Hmm.
I didn't like it myself. But when I tried cocaine, that's when I realized, like, wow, I like this. And opening that door to a substance having strength over me would end up backfiring on me really bad in the later years, when I chose to cross over to try heroin.
Yeah. So the cocaine use when you were younger, I mean, what was the first time like for you?
Uh, Man, it gave me it took away all my feel, like
Yeah.
the mental and emotional and the reality, like the here and now.
Hmm.
It blocked it out for me, and it made me feel like just like powerful, like superhuman.
Yeah.
And but it was like the more I would do, the more I would want. And eventually after I'd be able to fall asleep, I would I would, be okay. But then when, like later on, when we'd end up doing another car parts deal and we'd do a trade, it went from selling some of mine off for more money to no, I was keeping all mine and doing it. And no, you can't buy none. It's mine. And it even got to the point where even sometimes when we weren't doing car part deals with the guys who had the stuff, I was going and buying it.
Yeah. So with cocaine during that time, like what are the like the side effects of cocaine, or like how did it change your life or change you as a person, you think, during that time?
Well, I believe it definitely lowered my guard down to open my mind up to be willing to try different things. Um, if it was around, I would I would do it, and then when it would be gone, I would want to chase and get more. So if I had money or something to get more with, I would do it. But like as when I was younger, it it I really didn't start having the bad repercussions until I was older. Like when I would do it, I wouldn't eat for a couple days because it messed my stomach up, and my nose and throat would be all messed up, and uh, but in the later years when I started when I would use and I would go into a binge because I wouldn't just go out for a night and party. Like it would be like a 3 or 4 night binge, and sometimes a week, with a little sleep in
Yeah.
between. But I wouldn't shave. I wouldn't get a haircut. I I I I barely would shower on these binges. I would wear the same socks and clothes, and even once all my money was gone and there was nothing to steal, I would sell my personal belongings. I would take my kids' things and sell them.
And yeah, no, that happens to, most, if not all people who fall, into addiction like that. And what I wanted to say is how are when do the withdrawals come on for cocaine? Like how quick are the withdrawals?
Well, that's the cocaine. There's no physical um there's no physical withdrawals from it.
Oh,
Uh,
really? But
yeah,
but
no.
how do you feel like when coming down from it? Do you get depressed or?
Oh yeah, definitely. The thoughts keep racing, and uh, you start thinking about all the like, well, me, I think about all the dumb shit I did while I was getting high, all the dumb shit I did to keep it going. Making my friends mad at me, my family mad at me, but you know, just terrible. And it's like once you start that cycle, and then you do more to try to cover up the feelings you're feeling from it, you just end up creating more turmoil. So it's like you're always compounding the guilt and shame from using to use more.
Yeah.
Like with cocaine, it's more of a mental and emotional withdrawal. Because you get to a state where you'll mentally and emotionally like break yourself.
No, that
You
makes
know,
that makes sense. Yeah. And all
like
compounding for sure.
yeah, when I started hitting my lows, like people that knew me best were like, "What the fuck, man?" Sorry, excuse my language. Like,
Oh, no,
what
no,
the
you can
fuck?
curse. Yeah, you can curse. Yeah, you're
They're
fine.
like, "What the fuck is wrong with you, man? Like, you were one of the people like never thought." And I was like, "What the fuck you think I did?"
Yeah. So who are you on cocaine and who are you off cocaine and sober?
Oh fuck, that's a good one. Um, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You know, when I'm not using, I'm a 3 a.m. friend. I'm the friend that friends call when they're in deep shit, like when they need that guy that they know that you're gonna get some backlash for it, but I'll move a mountain to help a friend and my
Yeah.
family. Loving, caring, you know, very good at setting up goals and executing them. Very good at providing. Um, Always very clean, well put together, well spoken, nicely, uh, manicured and all that. But then when that monster's activated, it's it's no holds barred. Like came here to fuck some shit up, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And but the thing I end up fucking up is me and my wife and the closest ones around me.
Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. And let's talk about, and you don't have to go, into the things you don't want to talk about, but what were some of the things that you found regretful when it came to the addiction and, seeking out the money and things like that? And, maybe talk about, we talked about on the phone how you were in trap houses and other things like that. Kind of bring me back to like the peak of the addiction and how you kind of lived your life, where you lived at, what you were doing, to how you were getting money for it, things like that, if you don't mind.
Oh no, um, uh, yeah. So at the at the peak, um, me and a couple guys I was real close with, we ended up putting a crew together. Um, strictly selling, and within 8-10 months, I built up my work phone, which the work phone is the phone customers call from. I end up building up my work phone to where I would turn it on at 9, 10, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and I would leave it on till whenever I was done, which was usually, around bar closing time.
Were,
And
were
my
you
phone,
were you delivering, or were people picking up? What was kind of the balance to that?
either way, the ones that had cars, were close by, they would come to me, and there, certain ones I would go drop off to. But my phone would do 700-800 on a slow day to I had $1,600 days, $2,200 days, even like a $2,600 day, and this was daily,
Yeah.
just off of cocaine, weed, and ecstasy. And I would use a little bit, when I'd be out drinking, but three three deaths happened really close within 6 months of each other. The first one was my mom. My mom passed away 2 days after Christmas, 2008. Um, and that threw me for a loop. That started me, you know, screwing up, and that's when I first tried crack.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's
yeah,
let's talk about let's talk about crack for a second. I've never done cocaine before, but I could assume it brings on a lot of euphoria and things like that.
yeah.
Explain to me the difference between using cocaine and snorting it versus using crack. What exactly is the difference to you?
Um, you, your receptors receive a higher amount when it hits you. The high's not as long, but it's heightened. It's stronger, and but also with that, you chase it more. You want more. Um, and it turns. it turns me into a weirdo.
Yeah.
Like they talk about tweaking.
Hmm.
Like, it's like, yeah, really, really, really bad. Like into a weirdo. And what the crazy thing is that the person that I first tried crack with ever was, my dad. That was after my mom passed. Um, I uh, I came over to his apartment a couple days later, and I asked him to see his pipe, and he probably, thought that I was going to put a piece in there for him to try because I usually did that when I got some new stuff. So he got all excited and was like, "Oh yeah, here, here." And then I took a start, taking a hit, and he was like, "No, no, no, what are you doing?" And it was already too late. I was already inhaling and blowing the smoke out. And
Yeah.
he went on after me to hit it, and that little 4 hour escapade right there, uh, between me and him, went through a 8 ball of crack, and it became our end of the night ritual. When he got done with work and I got done with hustling, we would meet up at his place, and we would smoke. And but the 2 weeks after my mom passed, my mother-in-law passed.
Yeah.
Yeah, a heart attack, and I was the one actually doing the CPR, trying to do the resuscitation. And by the time the ambulance got there and they got to the hospital, it was, dead on arrival.
Hmm.
And and then the day of my mother-in-law's funeral, we come home, and my best friend never made it. Uh, my best friend was a girl, BG, big girl. Um, she was about 5'4", 340 pounds, and she was like one of us, one of the guys. And
Yeah.
I she never made it to the funeral. And when I left the house, she was like, "Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there." When we get back from the funeral, um, she was in the house. Um, she did a combination of Xanax with some pain pills and slowed her respiratory system down, where she suffocated on her own phlegm.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
with her too, I did the CPR, and when I blew the air into her, and her body blew it back out, the phlegm that was caught in her throat went in my mouth, and the taste and the smell I smelt from it, and how cold it was when it went in my mouth. I knew it was way too late, and that put set me over the edge. Like, I quit. I quit selling. I just used. And then when I didn't have any, I went out, I would steal, I would rob, I would break into houses and gut them out for the scrap metal. And just, it didn't matter. And in the matter of that first year, that was the peak. The
Yeah.
18 months after BG died, um, I was like, oh, now I'm 6'3". I'm regularly like 190 to 220 if I'm working out. And I was about 220 at that time. At the end of that 18-month run, I was 124 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
looked like an AIDS patient. Like, I had sores all over me, and I would eat like a honey bun or some cookies every couple days, and drink pop, and that was it.
so with this was, you said this was 2008, right?
Yeah,
2009.
2000, 2008 up into late 2009. I finally
And
I
what was the final straw that and then after that, did you end up getting clean and then going back, or did you stay clean, or what exactly? How did that work?
Well, well, what happened is I end up violating parole, and while I violated, I caught an a new charge too. So when I went for my 30-day restriction for my parole violation, in the middle of the 30 days, a detective from Monroe County came and seen me, and they found my DNA at a crime scene, and I ended up going to Monroe County for the court proceedings, and end up getting a new sentence. So I didn't get clean by choice. I got clean because I I, I got locked up.
And let's
So
let's talk about that. When you were locked up, how did you feel with the withdrawals and everything? How are you? What was your mindset like when you were first locked up?
oh man, now I read NA literature, and I have Narcotics Anonymous friends, and there's a paragraph in there when they say that our living standards were reduced to the animalistic level.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Like I would eat like a slob. I wouldn't take my time to enjoy it. Uh, um, like I slept like the first week that that they had me locked up, and I was so weak. Like I was so weak. Like walking up a half a flight of stairs would take the wind out of me. I was I had no body mass. Like I had minimal muscle. So like sitting on a bench would hurt because my ass bones would be like right at the skin, and like I end up looking and being the person that I used to look bad at and talk about when I would see them.
Yeah. And how long during, when you first got sentenced, when you were first in there, I would assume you'd be depressed, right? Being in there and going through withdrawals and everything, right?
Yeah, well, you would think that, right? But
Sure, yeah.
I knew that I was out there so bad, and the way I would say living, but I wasn't living. That's not living. What I was doing wasn't living. Um, I was actually grateful, like real talk. Like I was actually grateful that because I couldn't apply the brakes to the way I was treating myself, that the state had to step in and do it with a prison sentence. Because at the rate I was going, I wouldn't have made it too much longer. So
Yeah.
it actually became a blessing. So once the fog, like I was mad, I was depressed, but once the fog actually lifted, and I felt my body getting better as the weeks went on, I I was like really I was I was grateful, to have another chance
Yeah.
to live like a human,
No,
even if it did start.
you made a very, very solid point on living like that is very animal like.
Yeah,
It's very, very, it's all just driven by cravings, not by logic, not by love or empathy. It's just strictly
no,
driven based on
no, like
the
short.
cravings.
It's like a short game. The here, like right now, it's the obsession and the compulsion. Like feed my need right now of euphoria. And it's and like this like there was a time where I was walking through the alleys, and I turned a corner in an alley, and there was three big ass stray dogs that got out. They were big, and
Hmm.
they looked like they could get viciously mean. And it was like when I came around that corner and we met up, we were only like 7 feet from each other. It was like they all looked at me and sized me up, and I looked at them, and it was like they understood me as like one of them. Like they like I feel like they identified as me being like
An animal.
animal, right? The
Yeah,
way I
that's a
smelled,
powerful moment. Yeah.
yeah. And I always remember that, and it's weird, not weird, but was just that always sat with me. And
Yeah.
even
No,
like
that is a powerful moment.
another thing that sat with me, the first trap house I ever started hanging out in, I came in, I bought my stuff, all excited. I went and sat down at the table, and this chick I never seen before, she looked at me. She was like, What are you doing here?" I was like, What's it look like I'm doing here?" She was like, "No, I mean, like, what are you doing?" She was like, She was like, "This ain't for you." She was like, "You need to think about what you're getting yourself into." She was like, I could just tell. I got a feeling that this, this ain't for you, baby." And I was like, and then it just gave me the thought, like, what do you mean this ain't for me? Like, I'm gonna show you, I, I'm gonna show you that I could be a, I could be a real dope fiend. And, and yeah, that's what I did. I ended up showing them.
Yeah.
And you asked a minute ago about, uh, not a minute, but a few minutes about like one of my biggest regrets when I was caught up in it. My biggest
Yeah.
regret now was all the lies I told my kids and all the promises and all the "I'll be back" and "No, you can't go with me now," because I missed out on some really important years and times when your kids want to be with you and want to be around you, like they want it.
Hmm.
And then like now that they're older, I gotta try to like beg for their time, or like manipulate to get some of their time, or I gotta come up with some elaborate ruse, to spend some time with them. And I know there's still mistrust and a lot of resentments, and they show themselves sometimes, but I have to, you know, I have to still deal with that and work through it on my end because I created it.
Yeah.
Now my oldest son just had his first baby, and I could already tell that he's going to be a way better dad than I was.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
But yeah,
that's, yeah.
that's like, I honestly, I don't regret not going to college or not going to trade school. I don't I don't regret doing something different with the money I made, or why didn't I buy properties when stuff. I don't None of that stuff. What I regret is not building a solid relationship with my kids when they were younger, and keeping my word and my promises when I made them.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, I mean, so far your story's crazy. I mean, it is. I mean, I couldn't imagine, being as skinny as you were and going through all that and the crack and all of that stuff is just absolutely crazy. Um, Now let's talk about like the current time for you. We all have regrets and they all do play on us, and they all those bad thoughts play on us. Um, how have you been doing like mentally as of recently, do you think?
Well, not terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
there's still days where I let you know, life gets to me, and I'll get a bullshit thought, and I
Yeah.
might hold on to it for too long. But for the most part, I know how to deflate my problems when they arise. Like if I get a stupid thought to go use, I'll call people. I'll call people and tell them
Yeah.
myself. I'll call friends of mine that are in recovery. But and not even all my thoughts are for using. Like right now, I'm dealing with my phone's shut off, my cell phone shut off because I'm behind on my payments because I'm in
Yeah.
between job. I let go of an old job, a job I had to start a job where the executive chef searched me out and and you know put together a hiring package for me that I couldn't say no to. And but like yeah, like okay, my phone's off. It shouldn't be, but it is. So one of my old thoughts is, hey, well, you can go and go do a scanning scam at Home Depot or Walmart, where you change barcodes and
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
$5 for a $300 item, or go take some wheels off something. But man, I'm 39, almost 40 years old. I
Yeah.
that shit's played out.
Yeah.
Sometimes when if I make a life choice that was not the best one, and then it ends up having a repercussion for it, I will allow myself to go through the problem and feel it. And I remind
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
this is what happens when you make dumb choices. This is what happens.
And w-
Just because somebody's not using doesn't mean problems still don't happen. Life shows up every day.
what do you could you think of the top of your head of any particularly useful tricks that you do, or any kind of things that kind of help you when those bad thoughts arise, or problems do happen? Have you learned any particular coping skills from Narcotics Anonymous, or maybe from yourself, that you find particularly useful?
Well, usually like I said, I'll grab my phone and I'll call friends of mine in my recovery circle, and I'll tell them myself, like, hey, I'm thinking some dumb shit. But mostly, what I'll do is I'll pull out one of my journals. I'll pull out some of my, whatever book I'm reading at the time, and I'll 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 journal. I'll read a little bit. I'll journal, but then I think back, like, why is this happening? Why am I feeling like this? And I can look back through my journal, and usually there's something that's happening, and it might not even be something big. It might be something small. It might be that somebody aggravates you at work, and it pops up in other areas.
That's a good point. Yeah,
And
it's a
like
good point.
one of my thing, like one thing that I used to screw myself over with a lot is letting stuff build up. Just letting shit build up, let stuff build up, uh, instead of addressing it as it happens. It took me a long time to even get that because when you're emotionally immature, you know when you haven't matured in your emotional area, some people will clam up and they'll withdraw in themselves. Some
Yeah.
people will try to express themselves and it comes out in rage. Some people will just cry. Well, when I was younger, I would express mine in rage
Yeah.
because um you know uh sadness and and being unhappy, that's fear based. And that when I would start expressing the way I feel to somebody about something they did, it it would I would get, sometimes it would go into rage, and it might not even they what I'm really mad at might not even be anything that they have something to do with, because I let stuff build up. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that I quit doing a long time ago, was letting shit build up. If something's bothering me, or something somebody does bothers me directly, then I address it. Not aggressive, usually assertive. I used to have aggression and assertiveness mixed up. I used to think they were the same. They're not. You could be assertive and still be polite at the same time.
No, that makes 100% sense. I like
Yeah,
that.
and I learned that I don't have to scare people to let them know that they did something that hurt me. And you're not weak or scared because you tell somebody they did something that hurt you or made you unhappy, or made you feel a certain way. It actually takes a very strong and understanding person to address address people about that.
Oh, 100%. No, I love all the points you're making. I mean, they're very, very solid points. And let's talk about the journaling for a second. So you how long have you been journaling?
Oh man, like on and off since I was 23. Since the
Yeah,
first time I went through drug rehab.
gotcha. Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah,
That's a long time.
yeah,
So when you went to rehab, you said you went to rehab at 23?
yeah. The first time,
And how long were you sober for at that time?
at that time, I don't know. I probably stayed sober like, I don't know, like a year and a half, something like
And
that. Oh, a
what what,
year.
what was the flipping switch for that particular moment?
Well, that was just because I was on parole. See, at that time, I still didn't have a problem getting high. My parole officer had a problem with me getting high.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, because I mean, at the time, it wasn't. Well, I didn't feel it was a problem because like the binging didn't start yet. The binging behavior.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes a bunch of sense.
yeah. Like
Um,
I still always kept a nice haircut, a nice wardrobe, nice shoes. But as
Now,
as time went on, and it it got more difficult.
yeah.
But that was my first time going through treatment. Now, mind you, now I've been through treatment 30, 32, 33 times.
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot of times. But you've been
Yeah.
sober. You said you were sober for 10 years, or how long has it been?
No, no. Now it's let's see, 16 months. About 16 months coming up.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And yeah, I what I'm trying to think what I was about to ask. Oh man, I think I just lost it. It was going back to um have you during the drug dealing days, were you ever robbed or did you ever face any really crazy situations?
No, believe it or not, no. Actually, no.
Wow.
Oh, well, hold on. Nope, I can't say that. When when I was still living with my parents, um, one of the older guys that used to drop off sacks for people to sell for him. He him and my cousin started dealing, and I seen how my cousin was getting some money, so I got in the picture. And when you got a street, and you got four black guys selling crack and heroin, and you got two white guys on the street, who the cops usually mess with first? Honestly,
Yeah.
well, at least in Detroit, they
Oh,
fuck
for
with the
sure.
black
Yeah.
guys. They fuck with the black guys first, and I seen that as an advantage. And
Yeah.
my mom and dad had to go to Texas for something, and I had the house to myself, and I had like 3 rocks left for the end of the night, and I thought I was making a deal, so I go on the back side of the house, fucking put my head down to reach in the bag to pull them out. When I look back up, there was a muzzle of a big ass revolver in my face.
Wow.
I said, "Man, yeah, you could take this shit. I don't want you. Go ahead. I, I ain't trying to be fucking tough and lose my brain over this shit."
Damn.
But
That's insane.
yeah, that's I never sold drugs out on a sidewalk again.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk about for a second. You mentioned heroin, and
Yeah.
when was the first time you've ever done heroin?
Well, that's a older friend of mine. He was in the federal system, and one of the streets I used to hang out on all on the time is actually the street my wife grew up on. Eh, Um, he had family over there, and some situations came about that me and some of the guys, looked out and helped him out. And he heard about it, and you know, when he got out, he was like, "Hey man, what? Just want to tell you, saying, hey guys, thanks. You looked out for my family when I was gone. It means a lot to me." I basically told him like, "Look, man, I can do that shit for you. I didn't even know that they were related to a guy like you. Like he was a big, heavy hitting dude, like
Hmm.
big scale, and like he gave me and my boy $200, like right there on the spot. But I told him, I was like, look, I didn't do that shit for you, or because I knew that they're related to you. I did it because they're good people, and they needed help. And as a little bit of time went on, me and him start hanging out, and when he got back in the game, um, I was like his personal errand boy,
Hmm.
and you know we'd stay up for 2 or 3 days sniffing coke, and I used to see him sniffing these little packets to even back out. So I told him like, man, let me get some of that shit, man. Let me try some of that. I want to come down, and he was like, no, man, no, this shit ain't for you, man. This shit ain't for you. This ain't for play. This is for keeps. And I hit him with a low blow. I was like, well, if you're not going to give it to me, I'm gonna go search out and find some of my own. And he was like, oh, that's some whole ass shit. You're gonna do that. He was like, okay, here, go ahead. He gave me a couple packets of heroin, and I sniffed it. And at that moment, I knew that I liked heroin.
Now let's talk about heroin. I've read personal accounts of people doing heroin for the first time, and it's one of those drugs where you can't get your mind off of it once you do it. It's that type of feeling.
Yes,
What was the
yes,
experience like for you? And you can glamorize it because people know for obviously for a fact you should not do heroin.
yeah,
People
no,
don't talk about how enjoyable it is. It's always, a video of an intervention or a documentary just showing the horrors of it. But
yeah.
when you first did it, what exactly attracted you to it?
Well, when I was snorting it, it just, man, again, it took away all my physical aches and pains. It would slow down my train of thought to where I could think about a few things instead of a thousand things at once. I've always had racing thoughts, and
Hmm.
it helped with that. But it gave me confidence. Believe it or not, like the heroin gave me confidence, and it just it felt so soothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything about it felt awesome, and like even when like I would do something before I would have sex, it'd make me last longer in bed, and it was more enjoyable. Um,
And it was the complete opposite reality of crack or cocaine. I mean, it
oh
is
yeah, yes,
quite
yes,
literally the opposite.
complete
And
opposite.
did
But
you
the
did you ever combo those two a lot? Like, because I've heard of those
oh,
things called, are
oh
those,
yeah,
what are they called?
oh yeah,
Speedballs, right?
well yeah. Well, I was going to get into that, but the the true test of when I fell in love with heroin is when I shot up for the first time.
Yeah.
That
And
that
what is the
feeling.
difference? Because we talked about before, we talked about the difference between cocaine and crack. I mean, cocaine and crack, is that the 10x version from cocaine to crack, or is it the 5x version? Like,
Uh,
we'll talk about that
well,
for a
okay.
second.
Going from sniffing coke to smoking crack is like times times three. But
Okay.
then if you go to mainlining it, shooting it up,
Hmm.
that's like times 10.
So now let's
And
talk
then,
about heroin. So snorting heroin versus injecting heroin, how exactly different is that?
oh man, it's life changing different. It was so different that once I injected it, I never went to snorting it again.
Yeah.
Never. It was like the first time I shot up, it was like I felt where it was at in my bloodstream as it coursed through my body. And I felt when it went up my spine and up the back of my neck and up the back of my head, and then it trickled down like the inside of my skull through my brain. And the feeling that came through me was just, it's something that I've only experienced that feeling two times, and it was so good of a feeling that I have taken chances, risking my life, risking other people's lives, risking a lot of jail time, blew a lot of money trying to get it. And it's like literally, it's to the point, it was to the point where I would have a woman next to me in bed and I would go for the heroin.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you too, did you ever overdose at any point on any of these drugs?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've overdosed on heroin shit several times, several times. Uh, about three times at my dad's house. Um, two times he brought me out of it. One time he had to call the ambulance. Um, one time I overdosed in the bathroom while it was just me and my oldest son at home, and a friend of mine had to kick in the bathroom door, and I snapped out of it. I took off. Another time I overdosed in the basement of the house we currently live at, and my wife went to go in the kitchen to get something to drink before she went upstairs to go to bed. And you ever heard the saying they say the death gurgle?
Yeah. I might have. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I was in the basement when I did the dope, and I face planted, literally face planted,
Yeah.
and I was face down in a puddle of blood, and I was gurgling while I was trying to breathe. My nose was so swelled up, and the blood was choking me. And she heard it, and so she went downstairs, and she found me down there, and called the ambulance. As soon as they rolled me over, they seen the blood spot on my arm where I just shot up, and they were like, "Yeah, yep, it's an overdose." And they said that wherever the shit came from that day, it's crazy because Dearborn Heights and the surrounding cities, they had like 48 overdoses within like a 2 hour period. And when they finally got me somewhat out of it, they said that they were going to have to run liquid Narcan through my veins.
Wait,
And
repeat that. You cut out for a second.
they when they finally got me out of it, they said that they were going to have to run liquid Narcan through my veins to keep me out of it. And they were like, "You're going to feel something
Yeah.
very uncomfortable," and it did. It felt like my bloodstream was being electrocuted, stabbed with millions of needles,
Oh
and I
man.
felt like I was on fire.
Yeah, because I've seen videos of, like, for example, Kensington, PA, and a couple different places, and I didn't know much about Narcan at the time, but seeing some of these people get Narcan, I mean, they come out, just some of them come out swinging, because you
Yeah,
are thrown into withdrawals immediately, right?
yeah, yep, instant subacute subacute withdrawal. Yes, immediately.
So with these, so if you could compare the withdrawals from Narcan versus regular withdrawals, is it amplified so much more with Narcan?
Not really, because the half life of Narcan isn't that long. So if you did some really strong dope or enough of it, when the Narcan wears off, you'll still be high.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Damn. Yeah, overdosing is insane. And what I wanted to talk about too is, and I fell into this, with weed and with other things, with psychiatric drugs. These any drugs really, play they mess with your brain horribly.
Yes. Yeah.
Or if we take like crack cocaine, or if we take a crazy stimulant like meth, you have cases of people becoming delusional, all sorts of things.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
You have people that have warped their minds to a state where it won't go back.
yeah, that's true too.
And then
That
you got
is
to
true.
think like okay, the probability from a person shooting up cocaine of causing mental damage, it's it's a good chance.
Yeah,
Okay, now when you take somebody who is addicted to more than one drug and uses more than one drug, now you just jack that percentage up 300 times.
yeah.
So
So,
that's another thing I'm extremely grateful for today is that
mhm,
my state of mind is in, is very well compared to some of the people that went through what I went through.
that's a good point. Yeah, I know somebody who works in a psychiatric hospital, and it's true. I mean, if you get the wrong drug, for example, if you take a PCP, or if you do, synthetic marijuana, what's that called? I
Salvia,
forget. It's
salvia,
salvia. Salvia is a big one too. That'll fuck you up big time.
yeah, oh
Um,
yeah,
but what I want to ask is, during the moments where I was smoking weed, because I'm completely incompatible with weed, I had an extremely powerful moment. Some sort of psychosis. I blacked out. I felt like I was God. It was just absolutely insane. But what I want to ask you is, during all of this drug use, did you ever have any of those really, really powerful delusions, or did you ever have any really powerful psychiatric moments that were, notable to you? Because I feel like these drugs are so very well easily capable of giving you a psychiatric problem while you're using them.
oh yeah. But I've had delusions where I literally thought that I had full conversations with people and seen them later and brought it up, and they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like, nah, like I haven't seen you in like some time. Like, you know, like what I was bad for was blacking out. Like I would be 100% completely blacked out and still would be out functioning and doing things. And like I had no idea what I would be doing, and like I'm sure people around seeing, knew that I was fucked up, but they didn't know to what level of
Yeah.
fucked up. Like there was times where I've blacked out at a house, and when I came to, I was miles away. Uh, Fucking snapped out of it in a coffee shop before, snapped out of it in the CVS before, snapped
What
out
does
of
that
it.
feel like? What exactly does that feel like
It's
when that
fucking
happens?
terrifying. It's fucking terrifying. Like when I snap out of it and fucking, and then there's people around me looking at me, like it's scary.
Yeah. Yeah, it does sound scary. Yeah, I've had moments like that on weed where it's like I can't remember the last zero point 0.5 seconds and I don't know who I am anymore. You know, that type of shit. It's just like so not it's not the same thing, but like moments like that are just so disorienting. They are
Yeah, and
so disorienting.
it got me to the point where I started feeling like well, okay, obviously I'm a long term drug addict, and drug addicts like to be in control of everything. When I started feeling that I couldn't control myself, and or like my mind, or once the blackout started happening, I knew that it was time to fucking put myself in check, because doing that dumb shit, I could put myself in a situation that there's no coming back from.
Yeah, it's true.
I could end up hurting somebody really bad or getting hurt really bad, and you know this has happened to people. Be in a fucking jail cell, when you snap out of it, you hear why the fuck you're in there, and you took
Yeah.
2 people's lives or 3 people's lives, or
Oh, I've
even
seen
worse,
videos. I've seen videos of alcoholics,
some
crying
some
because
children.
they like or yeah like I've seen like videos of alcoholics like they're like yeah you've been arrested like they snap out of it and they're like crying because they just killed 2 people in their car, you know what I mean, shit like that. It's just it's unbelievable, it's
Yeah,
crazy. It's freaking crazy. Yeah, that's a good point, like
there,
losing
there was
control like that.
there was a time when I was living with my uncle on the west side, 7 Mile and Telegraph area. Now, mind you, this is a pretty rough part of the neighborhood. My
Yeah,
neighborhood I grew up in was rough, but this is rough too. And it's predominantly black neighborhood.
yeah,
I fucking did some dope and I blacked out. And in in my blackout mind, I was going to the grocery store and I had bags of groceries. Well, when I fucking woke up, I was in a neighbor's apartment, and they said that their apartment door was locked, but somehow I was in there. I was literally
yeah,
standing in, it's one of the small apartments where the kitchen and the front room are like one. Well, the guy and his woman was sleeping on the couch, and when I woke up, I fucking got scared and I tossed the bags. I literally had bags in my hand. They were bags of empty cans from my uncle's apartment. And when they hit the ground, it woke the guy up. And the guy fucking lifted up and looked behind the couch. And now, mind you, he was a licensed carrier, and his firearm was on the table next to him. He didn't grab it because he
damn,
seen, I guess, by looking at my face, he seen how scared I was, and I was in my underwear. So
damn,
he didn't up the gun. And his question was like, "How did you get in here? How did you get in here?" I was like, "I don't know, man. I don't know." I was like, "I have the only thing the top of my head." I was like, I have a condition, man. I sleepwalk. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." And I turned around and I left.
holy
About
fuck,
about
dude.
10 minutes later, we got a banging on the door, and it was the cops. And
Yeah,
the cops, I opened the door, I let them in. They're like, "Can we look around?" Yeah, I already put all my paraphernalia up. And they were like, "So you have a sleepwalking condition?" I was like, "Yes, sir." They're like, "Do you have a medication for it?" I said, "Yes, sir." Now, the reason why I thought about that so quick is because one of my medications, one of the things it could be for is sleepwalking.
yeah,
So I got bottles, I gave them to them, They talked with the manager, they talked with the people, they, and just so happened the guy's brother has is a chronic sleepwalker, and
Oh, okay, cool.
he was like, I wouldn't want somebody to get charged for something that they can't control. He was like, I'm more grateful that he didn't pose a threat, because
Yeah,
the guy could have smoked me, and it would have been my fault.
dude,
Yeah,
that's powerful. What drugs were you on at the time? What exactly caused that blackout?
well,
Do you know?
when the blackouts were happening, I believe that's when the was more fentanyl based.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So so fentanyl versus heroin, we the things that I know about fentanyl is it's way more powerful in smaller
Yeah,
doses, and
yeah,
it is much short lasting than heroin, which kind of
correct,
you have to use it much more than you would have to use heroin. Um,
correct.
how now during this time that you're using, were you using during the fentanyl crisis, or were you using during, or did you start using during just normal heroin days?
No, well, and I'll see that's something that when I talk with people, and mostly the younger ones, or like when me and the older people a little bit older start kicking it. Let's see, I was kind of young when I started using opiates.
Hmm.
So, but I actually started using when it was still heroin. So I actually, tell people like, you know, it was a privilege that I actually got to experience real heroin before it went
Yeah,
synthetic. Back when you can do a half a gram and not worry about dying. You'd be high as fuck. You'd nod out for hours, but you wouldn't fucking die. Now it
yeah,
just takes you to do one pack that has a little bit too much fentanyl, and it's a wrap. But like how you're asking about like withdrawals from the drugs, I noticed that when it's like I used to be able to detox from heroin pretty much with nothing, just some soup, some crackers, and some fluids.
yeah,
But now the withdrawal from fentanyl is so much harder. It's so much longer. The physical is so much worse. But then again, it's a mental and emotional too. Like there was times when I withdrawed from fentanyl, and I would be crying, and my mind would be so fucking twisted, and like it was it's bad. It's so bad. That's why this last time I went through detox, it took me 3 weeks to detox fully.
damn,
And
that's a long
and
time.
yeah, yes, and I swore I would never put my body through that again.
Yeah, holy shit. And the one thing I've heard about fentanyl is like there are some people that use enough fentanyl in like 4 hours that could kill like 30 people. Like your
Oh yeah,
tolerance goes up, right?
oh yeah, yes it does.
Now, now what I'm confused about is these people buying heroin these days. How rare is actual heroin right now?
Yeah, people say heroin because that's just been the name of it. But like I have friends who work in the still they work in the treatment centers and everything, and they said very rarely do they see a drug test that actually has heroin on it.
Wow. Damn, that's
Like
crazy.
there was a time where I I was using. I thought I had a habit, and I was pretty much buying from only one person. And when I did my drug test, the person wanted to show me. They did my drug test. They were like, "Look, I got to show you this." There was morphine. There was benzos. There was
Yeah, yeah.
PCP. There was
Wow.
like seven fucking things. And they were like,
Jesus.
did you do any of this stuff?" I was like, not knowingly.
Yeah, that's fucked.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
what is the difference in the user experience with fentanyl versus heroin? It don't people say that fentanyl is less enjoyable than heroin as opposed, is that the truth
Yeah,
or is
well,
it?
yeah, it is. No, because like if the mix is too weak, you're still sick from it, and you barely get a feeling. And then if it's too strong, it fucking shuts your lights out.
Yeah, it's a good point.
You know, like heroin used to be, you would feel it. You fucking mellow. You be high as hell, like like a nice morphine high or a Dilaudid high. But fentanyl, you do fentanyl, it just fucking shuts your lights out.
Yeah. And
That that's why that's why
you said in your
that
drug test that the benzos showed up, and I have heard recently about benzo dope, which is I believe it's fentanyl mixed with benzodiazepines. Um,
it could be.
yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah, man, that shit's just fucking crazy. And I'm happy you weren't fucking killed on that day you blacked out. I mean, that was just insane. It's an insane story.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what like I actually when I tried speedballs for my first time, that was really that was my ultimate substance love affair.
Yeah,
If the fentanyl was too strong, the cocaine being in it would allow me to stay up to enjoy the downer from the fentanyl. But still, there was times where the fentanyl would be too strong for or the cocaine too weak. But it's just, man, when you have both of those, the upper and the downer, going through your fucking veins at the same time, pumping through your heart and in your brain, the crazy euphoric feeling, the instant paranoia, fucking shadows start moving, fucking think somebody's right behind you or off to the side of you. Ain't nobody fucking there.
yeah. Let's talk about that. So hallucinations. What kind of hallucinations have you experienced throughout the time that you're using?
Fuck, man. Always thinking that there's somebody out to get you, fucking seeing shadows, thinking they're people. That mostly from sleep deprivation. Then it got to a point where like, it didn't matter how much I used or just as long as I used, I would kick in, or I thought that I would hear voices whispering or quietly talking constantly, not making out no words, just the constant, the noise of it. Fucking hear an ice cream truck at 4 in the morning.
I've
You know,
had, I've had ever so slightly minor hallucinations like that where you'll hear music that's not there.
yeah,
It's very faint, and it's like it's just very off-putting. You know,
yeah, but like as far as like people talk about like they get messages through the radio or through the TV. No, there was a couple times where I thought that some shit that was on TV that they were talking about me, or like some shit that I was going through, and like that fucking that'll bug you out. But
yeah,
for the most part, like I've never thought of animals talking to me, or God was sending me messages through the TV, or nothing like that. But there's been times where I probably thought I heard something that wasn't there, and but definitely always thinking I'm hearing like voices, talking. And to me that was like, when you do people dirty and do scandalous things to people, you develop a level of paranoia when you start using. And because it's all that guilt,
yeah,
you deal with, thinking that somebody's going to come back and do you the way they did them.
yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. That does. And throughout the time you've been using, or throughout the time you used in the past, you've obviously dealt with a lot of people or have been around a lot of people in trap houses or in different places or drug dealers. if you had a rough number of the amount of people that you've heard about dying in your circle or a little bit outside of your circle, um, how many people do you think, around you died?
Um, I tried to come up with a number not too long ago, and it's up in the mid 20s with
Wow.
with half of them not just being acquaintances, with half that number being actual friends, like
Man.
people I grew up with, people I went to school with, a few of the guys, people I went through treatment with. Matter of fact, just a couple weeks ago, uh, a friend of mine made a short video at one of the treatment centers I went through, and they have a memory board of people that have passed. And instantly, as soon as he brought the camera up to the board and went across it, four of the cards stuck out to me off rip from people that I literally sat next to in classrooms, people I ate across from having lunch and dinner. Um, you know, one of the times I went through treatment out in Plymouth, one of our roommates, well, we actually went through inpatient together. And,
Hmm.
inpatient is when you're in house and you don't get to leave. Um, we actually, on visiting day, his mom came and seen him when my wife and son came and seen me. And a couple weeks after that, I completed, and they put you in an apartment for outpatient, and you go to outpatient group half the time of the day. A couple weeks after I completed, the other kid, his name was Daniel. I
Hmm.
don't remember his last name, but um, he they moved him into our apartment, and I just remember because he was so damn young, man. He was 22, and after being there for a few days, he got his truck and he was going to work, and I was in my room watching a movie on my phone, and about 3:30 in the morning, I hear a thud. Boom. I don't think nothing about it. We're in outpatient treatment, in
Yeah,
recovery
yeah,
apartments. 7:30 the next morning, one of our roommates busted in my roommate's door, was like, "Hey guys, hey, I need help. Daniel's locked in the bathroom. He's not answering." So
yeah,
me and my roommate get up. I was like, "What the fuck are you come wake us up for?" I was like, "Kick the fucking door in." So I
yeah,
kicked it in, and sure enough, fucking Daniel was fucking plopped down like Indian style in front of the toilet with his face down in the bowl and both of his arms on the side. And we pull him back. And I already knew at that point it was already too late because the where his arms were down and his face was down, the blood was starting to pool in those areas, and it was
yeah,
already purple. And and when we pulled him back, a couple open packs of heroin and a straw fell on the ground, and we called the 911 and called the house manager after that, and the ambulance came there. They already knew he was way past expiration, but I guess by law, by protocol, they gotta they gotta spend so much time trying to resuscitate somebody. And yeah, by the time the detectives got there, like 2 hours later, and this is the scary part, that I didn't know it by my actions, but and nobody should become this numb to it. But by the time the detective got there, I was already scrambling some eggs and making bacon and some hash browns, and literally sat down and ate breakfast while he had his questions. And I was answering
yeah,
questions between bites of breakfast. And, he was like, "Man, that's kind of rough." He's like, "How could you?" I was like, "Well," I was like, "I've dealt with this quite a bit." I was
yeah,
like, the point is, he can't eat breakfast. I was like, I still need my energy to get up and go about my day. And
yeah.
I have never got a look like that detective gave me. It was like, damn,
No, it's
that's
true.
cold, but it's true.
When you're around that shit for so long, I mean, it's just something. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
It's not the first rodeo. That's for
yeah.
fucking
But then
sure.
I even, what I'm saying, like I fought with myself, like, what if I would have got up when I heard that and just,
Every
like,
everybody has what ifs for
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And I would
If
be under the same assumption. I'd go, oh, there's plenty of people around. He's fine, or whatever. Oh, maybe somebody dropped something. You're not thinking because everybody there is sober. You're
Yeah,
not thinking that somebody else is using in the bathroom. That's just not the case.
right,
And
yeah,
I don't blame you at all. And this happens to everybody, war veterans, everybody, people in police. It's all the what ifs, what ifs,
yeah.
what ifs,
If,
what ifs.
if
The what ifs ain't going to change nothing. It's not going to change anything at all. And it's just one of those experiences. And no matter how long you live, you're always going to have what ifs with fucking everything.
yeah, if is the smallest, biggest word in our fucking vocabulary.
Yeah, that's true. That's fucking true. I agree. I agree. Without a
Yeah,
doubt.
smallest, biggest fucking word in our vocabulary. If,
Yeah.
yeah, if my aunt had a set of balls, she'd be my uncle.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's a classic right there.
Yeah, there's no telling where a if can get you or where it won't get you.
Yep. Or how long it'll hold you back. That's for fucking certain. Jeez. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
yeah, no, those are, I mean, the story that you told was actually pretty incredible, and it very, lots of detail in it. I mean,
yeah,
I really enjoyed it. It was very, very insightful, because I feel like people don't talk about a lot of this stuff. They just talk about just the recovery, or they talk about a little bit of what they went through. But I think all of those experiences were definitely very, very powerful and moving. And my last thing is, while you were looking through your journals and stuff, was there anything that stuck out that you maybe wanted to mention, or anything that you um, thought about while kind of looking back?
yeah. It was. I'm glad you brought this up. Just to where, like, when I first started my journaling, when my brain was completely fucking mangled and fucked up, about how short my entries were and the random bullshit that they were about. And as time went on, and and months and years went on, how much open and flowing and a wider vision, you know,
Mm.
end up coming from it. It's
Yeah, so you could
and
see the changes over time with your
yeah, and
brain.
it's and it's I feel that I've still experienced like so much that even what I've told you so far, it isn't close to 100%. It's
Oh no,
like,
not at all. Yeah.
as saying, you present your questions and I'm answering them, and I'm giving you stories. Certain things are triggering memories and is allowing me to expand on it. And and like I'm sure that if you had more questions, it would still I would still it would still trigger memories that I have.
Yeah.
Because some things that happened out there, you know, you try to put them in the back of your mind and get them out of the light. But
Yeah.
to get better, you got to bring those things out of the dark and expose them and share them with somebody.
No, it's true. It's true. And it goes back to what you were saying, letting all those things pile up and affect you in ways that,
That's why I was thrilled when you explained to me the process of this, being able to share honestly and openly with no reservations. I want to hold anything back because I don't have to worry about being exposed or people talking about me,
exactly,
or you
exactly,
know
exactly. And that's exactly the truth, because Because what I see is when you announce somebody's name, they're now worried about their reputation and they're not telling the truth. When you announce somebody's name, now they want to exaggerate. I
Yeah,
find no value in exaggerations. I find no value in holding back. It's these truthful, honest conversations that actually take you somewhere and gives you insight. And all the things that you told me were things that I've never thought of. Things that I've never even remotely, even with all the documentaries I've seen, they've never touched down on some of these things. you know and it's like,
man.
it's just what I like. That's just what I like. uh I feel like it's just good for you. It's good for you to know exactly what other people have been through, the types of experiences they've gone through, because there's lessons in them, for sure, without a
Yeah,
doubt.
yeah. And I mean, even, you know, a person that wants to recover, you don't just recover from drugs and alcohol. You could stop drugs and alcohol and, and try to recover. But, stopping, once you stop, then what?
Yeah.
Then you got to face the wreckage of your past. You got to face the wreckage that you caused other people. You know what I'm saying? There, there's a lot of shit that goes into the recovery than just fucking stop using. If you just stop using, it's only going to be a matter of time before you start back.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fucking hard work. That's why everybody don't do it.
No, it's a solid point. What tips would you say, or what are the top things that you think are important in recovery for yourself, at least in your eyes?
Well, honestly, being being honest, and that takes work at first. Being honest, picking the right people to have in your circle, finding what works for the individual. Because, like, when I used to go to meetings, and I was on Suboxone, I would let other people's opinion of people on medicated assisted treatment fucking deter me. And then I'm gonna show them I'm gonna quit doing my medicine, and then before no time I would be fucked up. But yet,
Yeah,
okay, this is my recovery. They can't recover for me. Only I can.
that's
So
true.
that's why I'm even picky and skeptical on meetings I go to nowadays. And like, if I see a person at a table that has caused me to feel that way before, I will leave. I will change tables or I will leave. Because I come here to get stuff off my chest and look for answers. I don't come
Yeah,
here to be badgered or ridiculed. Okay,
that's a good point.
just because you were able to do it without fucking some kind of help doesn't mean I can. You
Yeah.
know, uh, and what I found that works for me is actually getting the Sublocade shot. I get a monthly shot of Suboxone that sits in my fat tissue and is slowly dispersed throughout my body as I need it.
Hmm.
And that has been one of the main tools that help me, because obviously you have to stop the substance to even start your recovery process.
Yeah.
And not everybody gets it the first time. Not everybody gets it the second time, the fourth time, the fifth time, the sixth time. But as long as a person wakes up and gets another chance to fight your fucking ass off.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that is a very, very valid point. It should be a very customized thing to you. I mean, for even if we look at people who are addicted to food, maybe me or you could go, "Oh, I can stop eating that." But to them, it's everything to them. Everybody is
Yeah,
so different with their cravings, with the things the problems that they fall into. Everybody is so, so different. And you're right, it does not apply to everybody else. Just because somebody's like, I would never use Suboxone doesn't mean that it's not useful for other people in their recovery process. And it makes it possible
right.
for them,
Yeah,
you know?
right. Yeah,
So that's a very
def-
solid point.
definitely. A recovery process is very personal to that person. They say in the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous, they say that recovery is a selfish process. It's a selfish program for complicated people, or it's a
Yeah,
simple program for complicated people. But it's also a selfish program,
that makes
But
sense
they
to
also
me.
say that you have to get. So you can only keep what you have by giving it away, and that's not your materials or your money. It's information. It's sharing events and situations that somebody has went through, that somebody has went through. So they'll
Yeah,
end up hearing how this person got over life situation and not knowing at the time, but later on when this situation arises on their side of the fence, they're like, oh, okay, I already know how to go about this because that one time at that table where I almost blacked that person out, but the way they were talking made it interesting. So I listened. That might have just helped me save my life.
that's a valid point. My dad says sometimes, like, why do you have to step in that hole when I could just tell you what it is? You know,
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to say?
Uh, well, no, I mean, I feel nice and purged. I definitely appreciate the 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 opportunity to do this. Um,
Oh, for
I
sure,
hope
no worries. Yeah, I
I
loved the
hope
whole conversation. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah.
I hope anybody that ends up hearing this later gets something from it, and if it's even something on what to do, but what not to do, then even if one set of ears gets something from it, then it was justifiable. And just if if you would like to invite me on again, or do a touch up later or anything like that, or if you would like me to maybe put you in contact with somebody that I know that went through the lifestyle, I'd be more than willing to help you out like that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great conversation. I learned a bunch. Some of the people who signed up were absolutely hilarious. And this was a great one because the other choices I had of people were quite funny, and obviously I denied them. One guy wanted to talk about wrestling and tennis, and he doesn't even wrestle. And you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this was truly valuable for my perspective and everything that I was able to learn. And some of the people were like, how many times can I do it? Because they just wanted money. And I'm happy to give money to people who are telling the truth and are actually explaining their lives and the things that happen and answering questions. And I mean, the amount of detail we got out of this was just absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I really appreciate it. I thought it was amazing. It was a great conversation. But but yeah, anything else before I end the recording, and we'll talk for a minute afterwards.
No, that's pretty much all I got right now.
Sweet. All right. Well, I'm gonna end the recording now. Give me 1 second here.